everybody. Welcome into our Wednesday night Bible class. Good to see you. Enjoyed the meal with everyone who's able to up above earlier. Good to have some visitors with us tonight also. Glad to have the King boys. That's nice. So I'm always thankful for the Hendersons, that stash. I said the beauty and the stash is what that is. If you haven't, just take a moment to appreciate, all right? It'll be well worth your time. I'm sorry, Ken. I'm just so blown away. So this evening we are dealing with the big boys. We're talking about those who will get you out of places where you don't belong. You get in an area you're not supposed to be there, it's restricted. These are the bouncers. I hope you never have to encounter the big, tough bouncers anywhere you go and that you haven't had to. But that's the purpose of a bouncer. A bouncer, and I don't know if the name was derived from that or not, but will bounce you out of where you are not supposed to be or bounce you out of doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. Again, I hope you don't have to encounter people like this, but we do have to encounter some bouncers this evening. These individuals, you might say, are the bouncers of the Old Testament, and they're the ones that we're going to be discussing in chapters 26 and 27 of 1 Chronicles. Excuse me. So if you'll turn to 1 Chronicles 26, that is the place where we're beginning. In the first verse, you might have as a heading in your Bible, the gatekeepers. Okay, that's another name for the bouncers of the Old Testament. So we read here concerning in verse 1 the divisions of the gatekeepers. I just want to pause for a moment and state that James Smith in his commentary makes this remark, and I think it's going to be borne out in what we're going to be reading here, that the responsibility of the gatekeepers were to guard the gates leading to the temple, number one, the storerooms, number two, and number three, the temple treasuries. Okay, so I think we would understand gates that are going to the temple, and we're going to find in all four directions that those need to be guarded. What about the storehouses? What's going on, do you think, in the storehouses? I know the name itself kind of insinuates, but what's being stored in those houses, do you think? And I'll give you a hint here. We've been talking about the Levites and specialized responsibilities that they're going to have. There's a numbering that goes on and assignments that are being delegated. The Levites are responsible for what's been stored up from the children of Israel, do you think? Now I'm sorry? Okay, very good. Offerings. Now, as we go, as I go down in the definition or explanation that's given, the temple treasuries, now we know what's being kept there. That's the monies, right? That's going to be the golds and the silvers and the bronzes and so on. But this is a little bit different. The storehouses come from the offerings, and especially you're going to be talking about a grain tithe or a grain offering that's being given. And how are these grain products going to be used? They're given, of course, passed on to the Levites and their keeping, as well as, priests. There's some usage there. How exactly do they use them? Much of them anyway. They eat it, okay. So the tenth, the tithe that's given helps to support those who, through the years, have been taking care of the business of the tabernacle. And now as this transition is occurring and the construction of the temple is about to begin, there's going to be more employment there. And through the offerings, God takes care of those who serve in specialized ways. So just want to reiterate, these are kind of the bouncers of the Old Testament, you might say. These are the ones who are guarding the gates to the temple to make sure people don't get through who shouldn't be in there, who are guarding the storerooms, the grain. Don't forget, this is a highly agricultural society back at this point. And people will gladly steal grain or animals whenever they get the opportunity, because that's the same thing as stealing cash monies today. And so these need to be guarded, and especially the temple treasuries. Just like we guard our coins and much more so our greenery today, our money, the gold and the silver and the like need to be guarded that have been given from the people. So these are the Old Testament bouncers. We're going to keep people out from these restricted areas. And even if people get in and are doing inappropriate things, we're going to kick them out so that they don't take things that don't belong to them. So verse 1, concerning the divisions of the gatekeepers, of the Korahites, here we go. Meshilemah is what it is. The son of Kor, that's about the worst one in all of them, thankfully. Get it over with early. Of the sons of Asaph. And don't forget, this Asaph is the guy who wrote a number of the inspired songs in the book of Psalms from the Old Testament. And the sons of Meshelemiah were Zechariah, the firstborn, Jediael, the second, Zebediah, the third, Jothniel, the fourth, Elam, the fifth, Jehohanan, the sixth, Elihonai, the seventh. Moreover, the sons of Obed-Edom. Thankfully, that's a little bit of a familiar name right there. Moreover, the sons of Obed-Elam were Shemaiah, the firstborn, Jehozabad, the second, Joah, the third, Sakar, the fourth, Nethanel, the fifth, Amiel, the sixth, Issachar, the seventh, Pulthai, the eighth. For were given this reason, God blessed him. I want you to hang on to that statement for just a moment here. God blessed him, and there are all these kids, 8 children. Also to Shemaiah. Now, if you go back, here's the descendancy. You have Obed-Edom in verse 4, and his firstborn Shemaiah. So now in verse 6, we're talking about Shemaiah, the firstborn of Obed-Edom. To Shemaiah, his son, were sons born who governed their father's houses because they were men of great ability. The sons of Shemaiah were Othni, Rephael, Obed, and Elzabad, whose brothers Elihu and Semachiah were able men. Verse 8. All these were the sons of Obed-Edom, meaning the descendants. Now, obviously, they're not all, sons. Those are the 8, but he has all of these grandchildren as well. All these are the sons of Obed-Edom, they and their sons and their brethren, able men with strength for the work. 62 of Obed-Edom. Okay, now let's stop right here for a moment and let's give a little bit of attention to this guy, as this section of Scripture does pay a lot of it to him. Does anybody recall Obed-Edom and his role within the kingdom of David under his rule? Does anything come to mind? We've had him prior. Almost, right? I'm sorry? Okay. Could have had some connection there as well. Good, Scott. Yeah, because some of these guys kind of double over in their roles. Good. Turn back to 2 Samuel chapter 6. 2 Samuel 6. I want us to be a little bit refreshed on Obed-Edom since we're giving him so much limelight this evening. So in the 6th chapter of 2 Samuel, there is good news, and that good news is it's time to bring the ark of the Lord back to, or into now, the holy city of Jerusalem. We're going to start in verse 5, 2 Samuel 6. And David and all the house of Israel were making merry before the Lord. This is an exciting time. With songs and lyres and harps and tambourines and castanets and cymbals. And when they came to the threshing floor of Nacon, Uzzah, we know him, Uzzah put out his hand to the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen stumbled. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and God struck him down there because of his error, and he died there beside the ark of God. And David was angry because the Lord had burst forth against Uzzah. Now, I don't know that this is that he's angry with the Lord. We're not told that. We're stated that he's angry. I think there's a good chance that he's more upset with himself than he is anyone else of going about this in too lackadaisical of a way. And hey, we're excited and it involves God's adoration, so we'll do it any way we please. And that doesn't work out very well. It results in the loss of someone's life, perhaps the loss of someone's soul. God certainly knows, and he's the judge of all. Nevertheless, verse 8, David was angry because the Lord had burst forth against Uzzah, and that place is called Perez Uzzah, or the bursting forth you might have as a footnote or center column reference. The bursting forth upon Uzzah. to this day. And David was afraid of the Lord that day, and he said, how can the ark of the Lord come to me? So David was not willing to take the ark of the Lord into the city of David, but David took it aside to the house of Obed-Edom. Ah, we know him. In the house of Obed-Edom, the Gittite. And the ark of the Lord remained in the house of Obed-Edom, the Gittite, 3 months. The consequence of that is the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his household. And it was told King David, the Lord has blessed the household of Obed-Edom and all that belongs to him because of the ark of God. So David went and brought up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom to the city of David with rejoicing. And he goes about things a different way. This time, when those who bore the ark of the Lord had gone only 6 steps. So it's, speed it up a little bit. Okay, so by the time you get to right here, we stop, we drop everything, and we construct an altar, and we offer a sacrifice to God. You're getting the point, right? 6 steps. We stop, we construct. Now, we don't know the exact amount of space that was left in this trip, but it could have been in the range of miles that remained on it. And every 6 steps, you think David might be a little more serious about respecting God and the homage now that he's paying to him? But the point of which is this: it's the house of Obed-Edom that houses this ark during this probationary time period, and David's not sure what ought to be done or if anything should be done. It's too scary, he thinks, to move or to even be around. But he sees the blessing of God that comes on this man's house. I also want to consider, freshly, if you're in this scenario, you have just seen or heard about a man who is just struck dead because of something involving this piece of furniture. Would you want it in your house and around your loved ones, your kids, and possibly this time even as well, maybe not some grandkids, but down the line it's going to be, would you want that in there? And for 3 months and for one mistake to happen with that? What this guy does, Obed-Edom, is out of respect of God and of preserving the history and the legacy of God's people, he, as it's seen right now, he risks his own life for that. And through this sacrifice, God immensely blesses him and his household. Okay, so I go back and read all of this to return to our passage in 1 Chronicles 26. And it's sure to point out to us that these are all the children, the 8 of them that are listed, of Obed-Edom, for God blessed him. Well, why did God do that? It's because of the sacrifice that he made for Israel on behalf of God's people, for their history and for their legacy, for the respect that he shows to God, even if it could potentially cost him his life or his family's life. It's kind of the way people are thinking about it back then. In what way do you think we're being told Obed-Edom was blessed? We know that he was blessed, and here we're told that he's blessed. Well, what are we given to understand this blessing in his family? Okay, quite a few kids, right? So he has 8 kids, and then we read about he has quite a few grandkids. In fact, a couple generations down the road, you count them all up, 62 of them. And I want you to compare that to some of the other names and how many of those there are. You're not going to find quite the numbers that you do. So I think in quantity, God gives him more of a blessing within his family. But something else that he does is he blesses each individual. It's not just there's 62 persons, but these are 62 people of tremendous quality as well. In verse 6, so to Shemaiah, his son, so these are going to be his grandkids, and this is Obed-Edom's firstborn son, Shemaiah. They govern their father's houses because they are men of great ability. Verse 7, they are able men. Verse 8, they are able men with strength for the work. And so they're not just blessed in number, but they're also blessed in tremendous skill in life. I think it's on behalf of the sacrifice that he's made for the Lord and his people. Okay, so in verse 9, and Meshelemiah, I think we're about done with him. So, and Meshelemiah had sons and brethren, 18 able men. Also, Hosah of the children of Merari had sons, Shimri the first. For though he was not the firstborn, his father made him the first. And this isn't a rare thing in the Old Testament. In fact, you go back in this family's history, David, what number is he? And all this greatness and promise comes through him. What number is he in the family? Okay, he's the last. I want to say, isn't it 8? if I'm not mistaken. But the point is, yeah, he's down the line, right? And the last of them, there are a whole bunch who come before. Well, let's rewind somewhat. And in the sons of Jacob or Israel, who is it who ends up getting a double blessing of those 12 sons? Jacob or Israel's sons? Joseph. What number is Joseph? Of the 12. Be careful. He's not last, but he's close. Okay, so it's Benjamin, right, who's the last, but Joseph is number 11, yet there's a double blessing that's given through. It's almost like he's treated like a first, even though he's number 11. So let's back up just a little bit. How about Jacob? What number is he? Or Israel, who gets the immense blessing? What number is he? He's number 2. Esau comes out first. So let's go back to their daddy, Isaac. What number is Isaac? Number 2, and not number 1. And so for us today, we're like, yeah, well, that's not any big deal. We divide up the inheritance evenly among all. That's not the way that it works back then. The firstborn in the world's way of doing things gets so much more. Yet God has this vision, and it's not necessarily because you're first that makes you extra special. And so we find this as well here. It's not a rare thing, and especially in the ancestry, that Shimri the first, though he's really not the firstborn, and his dad makes him the first, maybe for some of the same reasons as the ancestors. Hilkiah the second, Tebaliah the third, Zechariah the fourth. All the sons and brethren of Hosah were 13. Among these were the divisions of the gatekeepers. Now these are those big guys, the ones you don't want to mess with. These are the bouncers of the Old Testament. Having duties just like their brethren to serve in the house of the Lord. And I love that statement right there. Because compared to what the priests have done in the tabernacle and what they're going to be doing in the temple, compared to the vocalists in the worship service, compared to those who are proclaiming messages and doing public readings, how do you think it's viewed back in that day? Hey, what do you do? Well, I do work in the temple. Whoa, I'm a bouncer. Oh, you know, that's probably not nearly as impressive as the other ones. But God wants us to make sure that we understand they had duties just like the others. These tasks are important to God. And we've been seeing this on a weekly basis. This is the third class period in a row. There are these huge lists of names. And I told you, even though I'm terrible at pronouncing them and I butcher each one of these, nevertheless, we're going through each name for a reason. God wants them, I'm convinced, to be read. Verse 13, and they cast lots for each gate. We're going to find 4 of these. Each gate, the small as well as the great. You know, it might be that you're not a prominent person or you are. But there's a job for you to do. It might be that your job isn't flashy, and it may be that your job is, but regardless, there is a job for you to do. Something for everyone that needs to be done in the house of God. The lot for the east gate fell to Shelemiah, and they cast lots for his son Zechariah, a wise counselor, and his lot came out for the north gate. So we have the east gate, we have the north gate now covered. To Obed-Edom, the south gate, a third of these, and to his sons, the storehouse that was found out that direction. To Sapim and Hosah, the lot came out for the west gate. And now we have the directions that are covered. With the Sheliketh gate on the ascending highway, watchman opposite watchman. On the east were 6 Levites, on the north 4 each day, on the south 4 each day, and for the storehouse 2 by 2. As for the parbar on the west, there were 4 on the highway and 2 at the parbar. These were the divisions of the gatekeepers among the sons of Korah and among the sons of Merari. Verse 20, of the Levites, Ahijah, and I mentioned this about several, it's probably better, Ahiah, was over the treasuries of the house of God and over the treasuries of the dedicated things. The sons of Laadan, the descendants of the Gershonites of Laadan, heads of their fathers' houses of Laadan the Gershonite, Jehilai. The sons of Jeheli, Zatham, and Joel, his brother, were over the treasuries of the house of the Lord. This is an important text. Yes, sir, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
What is a parvar?
Good question. Do you have an answer to that? That's one that I didn't look up. Yeah.
It's an extension of the temple.
Okay. Yeah, and there are a lot of these, and a lot of the words, too. There's some good debate on them, too, what they mean. So an extension of the temple, Roy, thank you for that. So we have, where are we here? Verse 22, if I'm not mistaken. The sons of Jeheli, Zatham, and Joel, his brother, were over the treasuries of the house of the Lord. I'd mentioned that's a very important job, making sure that no silver or gold or other precious metals and the like are stolen out of it. Of the Amramites, the Izharites, the Hebronites, and the Uzzielites, Shebuel, the son of Gershom, the son of Moses, was overseer of the treasuries. And his brethren by Eleazar were Rehabiah, and his son Jeshiah, his son, Joram, his son, Zichri, his son, and Shelomith, his son. The Shelomith and his brethren were over all the treasuries of the dedicated things which King David and the heads of his father's houses, the captains over thousands and hundreds, and the captains of the army had dedicated. Some of the spoils won in battles they dedicated to maintain the house of the Lord. So that's where some of these monies come in as well. And all that Samuel the seer, Saul the son of Kish, Abner the son of Ner, and Joab the son of Zeruiah had dedicated, every dedicated thing, was under the hand of Shelomith and his brethren. You talk about a little bit of responsibility there on your plate. So it's not just all that's coming in now, but all these battles that have been won, and all this success that the prophets and the judges and the kings have had, and all this treasury is under your guard. Verse 29, of the Israelites, Kenaiah and his sons performed duties as officials and judges over Israel outside Jerusalem. Of the Hebronites, Hashabiah and his brethren, 1,700 able men, had the oversight of Israel on the west side of the Jordan for all the business of the Lord and in the service of the king. Among the Hebronites, Jerijah, again probably better Jeriah or Uriah, was head of the Hebronites according to the genealogy of the fathers. And so we're going to pause right there. And what it is about which we're reading in this spot might help by a visual on the map. We're talking about Hebron, and you might be able to tell, I know it's kind of small, but that's in the purple, the territory of Judah in the northeastern sector of that. It's not really just too terribly far from Jerusalem. You're looking about 10, 15 miles due south of that, a little bit west. But all this area west of the Jordan River, these that we read in this 1.5 verses, they're covering this territory, some of the official duties and business that's going on right there. And now we're going to pick up the middle of verse 31. In the 40th year of the reign of David. Okay, so how many years does David reign as king number 2 over Israel? This is it right here. Remember, he's at the end of it at this point. And so it is in this 40th year, the last year of the reign of David, that they were sought. And among them were found capable men at Jazer, capable men of Jazer of Gilead. Okay, does anybody recall where Gilead's found on our map? Israelites. This isn't so much like obviously it's not a tribe. It's kind of like our Ozarks. And this is a region. It's the plateau on the east side of the Jordan. So we have these people taking care of the west side. These capable men are found at Jazer at Gilead, and his brethren were 2,700 able men, heads of fathers' houses, whom King David made officials over the Reubenites, the Gadites, and half the tribe of Manasseh. And notice over on the east side, there are 2 Manassehs because it's so sizable. There are 2 land allotments that are divvied up. And so those are sliced and diced, and you have those on either side. Half the tribe of Manasseh, the tribe of Gad, the tribe of Reuben. We're talking about the affairs here going on the east side of the river. These are the ones from half of verse 31 on into 32. They are responsible for what's found over in that sector. Whom King David made officials over these, for every matter pertaining to God and also the affairs of the king. So these guys would be sent as diplomats, not to foreign areas, but to carry out the king's business on the west side and then also on the east. Okay, any other thoughts through chapter 26 before we move on? We'll spend a little more attention, give a little bit more of it to chapter 27. A lot of names. So let's carry on and finish these up. Verse 1 of 27. The children of Israel, according to their number, the heads of the fathers' houses, the captains of thousands and hundreds, and their officers served the king in every matter of the military understood. You may have that omitted in your version, but that's what's implied here. The military divisions. And this gives us some indication as to how these divvied up pieces work. Not only in the military, but probably also among the priests and then also the Levites. These divisions came in and went out month by month throughout all the months of the year, each division having 24,000. That's an interesting number. So just having recently gone through some pretty comprehensive biblical numerology, let's break this up and factor and recall what it is that we have here in the number 24,000. So in 24,000, what's the first number that stands out to you? We're just picking pieces of it out. We're going to keep slicing this down. 12. Okay, I like 12. And we have a multiple of 12, right? We have 12 times 2 to get us to 24. Okay, so we divide 24,000, Roy, by 24, and what do we have left over? So we have a 12 times 2. What's left over now? 24,000 divided by 24. We have 1,000 left over. Okay, let's break that one down biblically. What do we have now? Okay, good. 10 to the third power, or 10 times 10 times 10. And so these are the numbers that we have in concept. 12, which is the religious number. 2, which is the number of power. 10, that is the number of completeness. And 3, that is the number of divinity. Now, hear me out on this, and I know we're not directly told this and all, but it's amazing, isn't it, whenever you break all these down. It could be what's being insinuated about this is that you have the divine, 3, working through the religious, 12, providing power, 2, to bring completeness to or for his people. And so you have all these numbers being mixed in, and this isn't going to be the last time, and I think 12 here is really important. First of all, you have this 24,000, you see the number 12 in it, and they're being sent out when by when again? Month by, how many of those are there in a year? Oh yeah, that's strange, isn't it? So, verse number 2, over the first division for the first month was Jeshabeam, the son of Zabdiel, and in his division were 24,000. He was of the children of Perez, and the chief of all the captains of the army for the first month. Over the division of the second month was Dodai and Ahoite, and of his division, Mikloth also was the leader. And this could be kind of some dualism there, maybe a 1A and 1B kind of situation. And his division were 24,000. The third captain of the army for the third month was Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, the priest, who was chief. In his division, there were 24,000. This was the Benaiah, if that sounds familiar, by the way, who was mighty among the 30. We've already studied about him, and was actually over the 30. And his division was Amizabad, his son. The fourth captain for the fourth month was Asahel. Recall Asahel, the brother of Joab. What happened to him? Fleet of foot. He's your 4-3 guy that got drafted in the first round. He's not around for very long, though, is he? Unfortunately, maybe in his arrogance, or some might say in his zeal, he's struck down in battle. So, Asahel, the brother of Joab, and Zebediah, his son after him, and his division were 24,000. The fifth captain for the fifth month was Shamhuth, the Israelite, and his division were 24,000. The sixth captain for the sixth month was Ira, the son of Ikesh, the Tekoite, and his division were 24,000. The seventh captain for the seventh month was Helez, the Pelonite Of the children of Ephraim and his division were 24,000. The 8th captain for the 8th month was Shebekai the Shushathite of the Zarhites, and his division were 24,000. The 9th captain for the 9th month was Abizer the Anathothite of the Benjamites, and his division were 24,000. The 10th captain for the 10th month was Maharai the Netophathite. There we go. Always trying to find the emphasis in the right place. Netophathite of the Zarhites, and his division were 24,000. The 11th captain for the 11th month was Benaiah the Pirathonite of the children of Ephraim. His division were 24,000. The 12th captain for the 12th month was Heldai, also the Netophathite of Othniel. Oh, who's Othniel? Ehud Shamgar. Okay, but he heads the list, doesn't he? So he is actually the first of Israel's, how many judges officially are recognized of Israel? 12. Oh, that's strange, isn't it? But you see this, and you have the 12 months, and you have the 24,000 in each division, but a total of 12 divisions. 12, 12, 12, the religious of God. So of Othniel and his division also were 24,000. The way that this seems to work, it's not exactly, I don't believe, like our military today, and probably a lot of the things, and even governmentally, that are going on aren't exactly like our government is today, but it might be a little bit more like what it was in the earlier days, where people would hold these offices, but they also have, completely normal lives, and I don't mean this in an insulting way, so don't take it that way, but real jobs, also back home, and they don't just stay, in Washington, D.C. or Philadelphia or New York as the capital's moved around, just on a full-time basis. And that seems to be the case also, that these people still have lives in which they're involved, and so, they're not out in all these expeditions and defending 24/7, but there's a rotation that takes place, a monthly one that occurs. You're on this month. You guys are on this month. You guys are on this month. And they're able still to take care of things at home and live their normal lives through the rest of the year. Joe? There you go. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Thanks, Joe. So now in verse 16, any others? Verse 16, furthermore, over the tribes of Israel, the officer over the Reubenites was Eleazar, the son of Zikri. Over the Simeonites, Shephatiah, the son of Maacah. Over the Levites, Hashabiah, the son of Kemuel. I told you, these are like easy compared to the previous chapter ones, I feel like, and the early ones in this one too. So we have over the Aaronites, Zadok, and I find this interesting. Notice how the Aaronites are separated from the Levites. I think that's kind of cool. Over the Aaronites, Zadok. Over Judah, Elihu, one of David's brothers. Over Issachar, Omri, the son of Michael. Over Zebulun, Ishmaiah, the son of Obadiah. Over Naphtali, Jeremoth, the son of Azriel. Over the children of Ephraim, Hoshea, the son of Azariah. Over the half-tribe of Manasseh, Joel, the son of Pedaiah. Over the half-tribe of Manasseh and Gilead, Iddo, the son of Zechariah. Over Benjamin, Jaasiel, the son of Abner. Over Dan, Azarel, the son of Jehoram. These were the leaders of the tribe of Israel, the tribes of Israel. Okay, who would like to say our memory verse now in number 23? Very good. Sure. Yeah, very good. And so that's 1 Chronicles 27, 23, right? So when David does this numbering, and we read about it, now before the numbering is mostly at what level? How many, what age? Prior, 30, right? At 30. He drops it to 20, okay? We need more people probably that are going to be involved, but he doesn't count below that, we're told, because of his trust in the promise of God. I don't need to know the numbers of all of us. I just need to know the numbers right now of those 20 years old and above involving the Levites, because these are special servants in the Lord's work. There's more labor that's going to need to take place moving forward, and so he numbers those 20 years old and above. But then we're told about this event, verse 24, in a numbering that takes place. Joab, the son of Zeruiah, began a census But he didn't finish that. For wrath came upon Israel because of this census, nor was the number recorded in the account of the Chronicles of King David. Actually, you go back a little bit in the chapter, and no, we're not going to have time. So, chapter 21, and you'll see there are some numbers actually in the Chronicles of David, chapter 21, that are recorded, but you'll find there it's not the full number because they quit. And Joab, it's an abhorrent thing that the king has ordered him to do. He's tried to talk him out of it, and he doesn't go through with the full numbering, and sure enough, the wrath of God is encountered. 70,000 men of Israel die because of this sin of David. Well, verse 25, and Asmapheth, the son of Adiel, was over the king's treasuries. And I love this one, Jehonathan. Can we not just call him Jonathan? Really? We just have to put in an extra syllable, don't we, for the dummy Americans down the road. And 3,000 years later, laugh at the Americans. Everybody else does. So, no, actually, this is one of them, Roy, I did look up because in comparing it back then, I thought that about, well, why not Jonathan? And then I saw another translation. There actually is Jonathan that is translated. And it's one name in Hebrew, and Jehonathan is actually a transliteration of the Hebrew word. So that means we just taken the characters of Hebrew and put them into English equivalents. But you'll find it rendered both ways. It can be either Jehonathan or Jonathan, and really both of them are transliterations. So Jehonathan, and keep that in mind, Jonathan elsewhere, the son of Uzziah was over the storehouses in the field, in the cities, in the villages, and in the fortresses. Ezri, the son of Caleb, unique spelling for that, was over those who did the work of the field for tilling the ground. And Shimei, the Ramathite, was over the vineyards. And Zabdi, the Shifmite, was over the produce of the vineyards for the supply of the wine. Baal-Hanan, which might give us some background for this gentleman, Baal-Hanan, the Gederite, was over the olive trees and the sycamore trees that were in the lowlands. Joash was over the store of oil. And Shatrai, the Sharonite, was over the herds that fed in Sharon. And Shaphat, the son of Adlai, was over the herds that were in the valleys. Obil, the Ishmaelite, familiar also, Ishmael part that is, was over the camels. Jediah, the Meronothite, was over the donkeys. And Jaziz, the Hagrite, was over the flocks. All these were the officials over King David's property. Also, Jehonathan, or Jonathan, David's uncle, was a counselor, a wise man, and a scribe. Do you have anything other than David's uncle there? I don't think that's a very accurate translation. The Hebrew word is dod, is translated as uncle, and all it means is a near relative. I'm going to say that's just a guess on the part of the translators. But you go back to chapter 20 of 1 Chronicles in the 7th verse, and you'll find the statement that you have David's brother and Jonathan is his son. I think this is probably the same Jonathan, and if that's the case, that's going to actually be the nephew of David, and that would make David this man's uncle and not the other way around. So just note of interest, the Hebrew word dod, all it means is a near relative, and that's not definite that it's his uncle. Anyway, so Jehonathan or Jonathan, that's a near relative of David. He's a counselor, wise man, and a scribe. And Jehiel, the son of Hachmoni, was with the king's sons. Verse 33, Ahithophel was the king's counselor. Okay, Ahithophel. And then we encounter Hushai, the Archite, who is the king's companion. We know these guys from back in the day also. It's been a little bit prior. But what role does Ahithophel have, I'd like to say, in the government of David, which, of course, does kind of start out that way, but then ends up being outside of the government of David? This has to do with the rebellion of David's son, Absalom, and the attempted overthrow of the government. And he gladly just crosses right over it. It seems that he's always hungry for power, and he's not exactly very loyal. And then you have Hushai, who comes onto the scene and stays very loyal to David in this attempted overthrow, but he also serves as a double agent. He's involved in the new government. And he is an informant for David as to what's going on, and he actually ends up being vital in overthrowing Ahithophel and his power hold that he has on the new king. And in fact, when his advice is rejected and he probably sees, I'm losing my position of power in the government, he commits suicide. Yeah, and so he needs to be replaced, and Hushai plays an integral role in this. So verse 34, after Ahithophel, that's because he committed suicide, was Jehoiada, the son of Benaiah, then Abiathar. And the general of the king's army, of course, through the decades, was Joab. All right, so thankfully we've come to the end of this section with all the names. It's tough just to read through them, but why is it? And I put this out before you 3 weeks ago. Why would God give us a section of the Bible of these people that don't matter? Their jobs don't matter. Their roles don't matter. I mean, you have David, and you have Joab, and you have a Hushai who's really, significant. And why go through and mention and list name after name after name for the better part of 5 chapters? Could be. Maybe attention to detail. I like it. What, Joe? There you go. I misspoke, didn't I? But they don't do important things, though. I mean, they don't rule the kingdom, and they don't. There we go. There we go. And thank you for that. And thank you for allowing me to play devil's advocate, too. Go ahead, Roy. Yeah. Yeah, well, it must have been something to him, wasn't it? Was it the timber that was used for it? We don't read that really anywhere being of great relevance, do we? I always think they're pretty to see when I'm going by. Yeah, good point. Yeah, go ahead, Joe. Yeah, right. Short people use them to find Jesus. There you go, Roy. That's it. Go ahead. Yeah. Right. There you go. Beautiful. And I agree with the comments that made 100%. I've been playing the other side as a very mean-spirited person. 1 Corinthians chapter 12. Let's end here tonight. 1 Corinthians 12. Verses 4 and 5. Now there are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit. There are varieties of service, but the same Lord. Verse 14. The body does not consist of one member, but many. If the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, I don't belong to the body, that wouldn't make it any less part of the body. If the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, I don't belong to the body, that's not going to make it any less part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would be the sense of hearing? If the whole body were an ear, where would be the sense of smell? But as it is, God has arranged the members in the body, each one of them, as He chose. And of course, we're reading about the church, but don't forget the connection that the church is the temple. It's the fulfillment of the Old Testament temple. And so he's going through all of these individual roles that to most don't matter, when in reality they mattered to God all along. And there are roles that might seem so insignificant compared to the preaching and compared to the leading of songs in the temple and compared to the sacrifices that are being offered. These things are vital for the functioning of the Old Testament temple. Verse 20, as it is, there are many parts, yet one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you, nor the head to the feet, I don't need you. On the contrary, the parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable. And on those parts that don't get all the attention, that we think less honorable, we bestow the greater honor on these. And our unpresentable parts are treated with greater modesty, which our presentable parts do not require. But God has so composed the body, or the temple in application, giving greater honor to that part that lacked it, that there should be no division in the body, but that the members should have the same care for one another. And so those who spend time writing cards to people that are sick are understood to be just as valuable as the ones who are getting up in front of the congregation and preaching sermons or teaching Bible lessons or leading at the Lord's table or in prayers, and who are leading the congregation in song. And so I think the significance of this all along is for people who would look at this and say, okay, so the people that matter are David and go down the line of the kings and those that are close to that, for God to take a sliver out of a huge section of inspiration to make sure that we understand, even though we don't know the full stories of them all, God knows their stories. And He wants to make sure that everyone hears their name at least one time. But I'm confident of this fact. We're going to hear people's names like these one more time. That right now we don't know their stories. But one day we are going to know their stories. And the same thing is going to happen for us. This section of Scripture means everything to us. And just like 3,000 years from now, if the world goes on that long, nobody's going to know who Derek Yarber was or Adam Eilenstein. But God knows. And He remembers their stories. And He remembers the service that had been provided, even though the tasks might have been so small. And our names were spoken thousands of years perhaps prior, but it's not going to be the last time that they're ever spoken by God. Go right ahead, Rebecca. Yeah, I think so. Thank you, Rebecca. So we'll close on that. We're out of time. Let's do chapter 28, and thankfully we're done with the names, okay? We're getting back to more of the narrative and the easier to understand things. Chapter 28 for next week, and let's memorize verse 10. I appreciate the comments. Thank you for that, and questions also.